Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center for now. The send-off ceremony is starting. We see the 3 taikonauts that will be embarking on this incredible journey. They're the Shenzhou-17 crew members. Now, a send-off ceremony is being held in their honor to send them off. And this is the Wentian Pavilion, and people are gathering at what is being known as the Yuanmengyuan Square to send off the Shenzhou-17 crew. You can feel that excitement, that warmth there at Yuanmengyuan, where people have gathered to send the taikonauts off. We're talking about primary school students, we're talking about residents of Jiuquan, their colleagues, their family, among the people sending them off.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, we are following the order to carry out Shenzhou-17 manned space flight mission. Now we are ready to go. Please indicate. Member of the PLA Astronaut Corps, Taikonaut Tang Hongbo, Taikonaut Tang Shengjie, Taikonaut Jiang Xinling. Proceed. Yes. Salute.
And the send-off ceremony continues. The taikonauts will now take a shuttle to the launch pad near the square. We'll be following every step of the way and bring you the latest on this mission to you. As we continue to monitor the send-off ceremony, here is a little bit more information about who these 3 taikonauts are and what we do know about them. The 3 taikonauts were announced on Wednesday, actually. They are Tang Hongbo, Tang Shengjie, and Jiang Xinling. They are the youngest crew, as you would recall, our reporter told us just now. 48-year-old Tang Hongbo. He's the oldest of the crew. He's the commander of the Shenzhou-17 mission. He joined the People's Liberation Army Air Force back in 1995. Tang's first journey into space was in 2021 on the Shenzhou-12 mission as a crew member, and this time he will be the commander. The Shenzhou-12 was the first manned mission among the 11 launches to build China's Tiangong space station. It will be Tang Shengjie and Jiang Xinling's first time in space. Both are young, aspiring astronauts. You can see them waving to the crowd there as they prepare to board that shuttle that will take them to the launch tower. It's a beautiful day there in Jiuquan. 34-year-old Tang was once a fighter pilot. He graduated from China's Aviation University of Air Force in 2012. Tang was selected as a taikonaut only 3 years ago. And 35-year-old Jiang Xinling was also selected as a taikonaut in 2020. And before that, he was professional tank driver and fighter pilot. During his 10-year flying career, Jiang was awarded as a first-class pilot with safety flights reaching over 1,000 hours. Now the 3 taikonauts are boarding that shuttle that will take them to the launch tower. We'll be following their trip every step of the way. We'll be able to see the route. They will be escorted by a motorcade. All of them waving happily to the camera, looking calm, cool, and collected. I remember Mr. Tang, the commander, said in an interview that he was feeling very calm because everything that he trained for had prepared him for this moment. So he was calm, he was ready, and he's bringing with him 2 new taikonauts who belong to the 3rd generation of China's trained astronauts. We're talking about all of this with my studio guests here. The 3 taikonauts, Tang Hongbo, Tang Shengjie, and Jiang Xinling, are now ready to leave the Wentian Pavilion, the Yuanmengyuan Square, and now they're heading over to the launch tower. Professor Yang, let me bring you here as we continue to tell our viewers what's happening here. that trip from Yuanmongyuan to the launch tower we've witnessed many times. It will take a little more than 10 minutes.
Exactly.
And we'll be seeing some landmarks in Jiuquan along the way. Everything constructed. Oh, all right, the shuttle bus is getting ready to leave.
Well, this is the most beautiful season of the Jiuquan satellite launch center.
Is it?
Yes. You can see the forest. Very, that in the brown color is very, very impressive there. And you know that my first trip to the Jiuquan satellite launch center is in 2019. It is my first time to witness of the Milky Way in the sky of the summer night. So it is very bright and very clean and very beautiful.
It does look beautiful. It's a very beautiful autumn scene here. We will continue to monitor the movement of the three taikonauts here, but in the meantime, let's also go live to CGTN reporter Sun Ye, who is in Jiuquan watching all of this for us right now. Sun Ye, we are seeing the taikonauts embark on that short trip from Yuanmongyuan to the launch tower. Tell us what you see.
Hey there, good morning, Zhongzhi. Well, you said this is the best season to be in Jiuquan, and you know what? I am at the best place, arguably, to see the rocket launch. This is perhaps the best viewing point. We are 1.5 kilometers from the rocket launch pad. You'll see it's there. You can't see the rocket now because it's still wrapped by the rotation platforms, all 4 stages of them. And leading up to the launch, as the day goes on, the stages will unwrap one after another. Actually, not in that order, because the part that's shielding or wrapping the part where the spaceship and taikonauts stay in will reveal last. But we will let you know when that happens. Now here we have also confirmed with experts here from different systems, and they've told us throughout the night and until now, everything is in good condition, everything is in good order, and they have every reason to expect the mission to go as planned and smoothly. We've talked to people with the rocket system, and experts there say the rocket has actually been ready around a week ago when it's rolled out, and over the past week, of course, up until now, they've been rechecking the system to make sure everything is okay. And the rocket engineer told us, if there's one thing we want to know about the Long March 2F carrier rocket that's sending the taikonauts to space, is that this model of rocket is reliable, it's safe. So nothing to worry about that. And it's the same way with the spaceship system. Engineers with the Shenzhou spaceship system have also been telling us they also have been checking and rechecking the condition and status of the spaceship in the last few days until now, and many of them have been working here starting in the middle of the night, and around 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they have loaded some of the most time-sensitive package inside the spaceship. That's including some biological material, some experimental material that's expected to help maybe in the future contribute to cancer treatment and drug development. But of course, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves right now. As you said, the Shenzhou-17 crew has just departed from the Yuanmongyuan Square, and they should be something like 30 minutes away from the launch tower. We will let you know when they arrive and anything new happens here. Back to you, Zhongshi.
So we're watching where they're going, so we know exactly where they are, but thank you so much for that update. We're watching every step of the way, that short ride from Yuanmongyuan to the launch tower. The shuttle bus escorted in a motorcade, people lining up the street. A very noisy, a very happy scene there. A beautiful day in Jiuquan, as we can see. Early morning there, just past 8:30, and people lining up the streets to send off the three taikonauts. We're watching them as they make their way to the launch tower. And on that route, we just passed some of the iconic landmarks in Jiuquan. First, there was the Space Memorial Tower, and what we just saw was the iconic Rainbow Bridge at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Official name, Shenzhou Friendship Bridge. Looks like a sailing ship, symbolizing China's journey of exploring space. And a lot of people feel that resembles the shape of a rainbow, so hence its name, Rainbow Bridge. Now that bird's eye view of the Jiuquan shows us a quiet, beautiful, sunny day there in the city. We always could use a good day, we could use a good vibe on a send-off with the taikonauts. They are minutes away, I believe, Professor Yang, from reaching the launch tower, and this is the same route we see every time. It's a familiar route. We're getting a good vibe today.
Yes. When I live in the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, it's not very far from the launch pad to the center of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. So this is a short journey, and you know that you will notice that during the setup ceremony, in the years before, our astronauts all hold a small box. So that is a device for ventilation, because in the spacesuit you will be feel a little bit hot. So we need the ventilation. But today you can see that it is approved. So the hands of astronauts are free. The box is mounted just on the waist of the astronauts, so they feel more comfortable. And you know, so we have continuous improve our. This is intravehicular spacesuit. Although it is not more complex than the EVA spacesuit, but still it is very expensive, and it is a very important measure to ensure the safety of our astronauts. Actually speaking, just before this today, including the astronauts, they've already conducted the wet dress rehearsal. So they wear the same suit and go into the Shenzhou-17 spaceship and conducted the drill. So everything is tested, and to ensure, you know, that the launch is not only a business of the launch vehicle and the Shenzhou spaceship. It is a task of the whole system. The TT&C system, the launch site system, and even the landing site system, because you know that when an emergency case happened, the recovery team also have to work. Today, they are also standing by near the launch site. And also, you know that there are other critical systems, including our Tianlian data relay satellite. All these systems plays a very important role in every aspect. So it is harmony. We have the coordination of all these subsystems, all these systems, and also you know that just before the launch, the usually in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center we call the commander the zero commander. So zero commander will confirm that every system is okay, and even every ground station is okay for the launch, and then to go to the next step. So it is.
Yeah, they're getting ever closer now. The aerial shots we saw just now showing that the motorcade is getting closer to the launch tower. Mr. Liu, Professor Liu, I want to bring you into our discussion here also. I mean, every time I watch this, and I've watched this, you know, quite many times, I still get a little emotional because, I mean, you know, crowds are gathering to send you off, but they can only be so far. For this part of the route, you're pretty much, you know, on your own with the motorcade. And I pay special attention to how they speak. The taikonauts, I mean, they speak in such a calm, such a you know, cool, calm, collected fashion, indicating that they're ready for this, that they've trained for this. So I was curious, Professor Liu, when you watch this as a viewer, as a Chinese national, what is going through your mind right now?
Well, because I'm getting older, and I have a lot of good memories. Actually, in the early 70s, when China launched the first satellite into the space, we saw nothing of it. But just at this news, you know, when I was a kid, you know, people gathered together. We boycott the school actually to celebrate on our own. You know, we were there simply listening to the radio and what is going on. That was so exciting. Now we witness with our own eyes what is going on, and also the even the explanation from the space classroom. So this is really so much sensational. That's really inject the passion.
Absolutely.
And some of the passion is really actually mixed, because we were filled with a lot of mystic type of fairy tales over what is going on in the space, in the moon, etc. And now we see more of a scientific approach but of course also carried with our passion, with our fascination. And so therefore, it is really something of a sort of emotional bond between history, between our conventional belief, and now between the reality and between also the prospect of further exploration of the space and expansion of our human footprint.
I mean, it's always a mix of emotions on this day. You feel excited, you feel happy for that, but you also feel nervous about the mission. As we can see, they're getting closer, Professor Yang, to the launch tower. Now we can see the launch tower in the distance. I mean, it's always a combination of feelings, emotions on this day, even though you know that they've trained specifically for this day for so long in their life. Tang Hongbo, of course, belonging to the second generation, and the two new taikonauts belonging to the third generation, who were selected back in 2020. So for the third batch of taikonauts, they were selected in 2020. They've had about a little over 2 years of training. How ready are they, Professor Yang, for this mission?
Well, you know that in the third batch of astronauts of China, we have 18 crew, 18 members. So 7 of them are pilots, were trained as pilots, and 7 of them were trained as flight engineers, and 4 of them were trained as payload experts. And also we have 1 female in the third batch. So I believe that in the future, they will be very important for the operation of China's manned space station, because you know that's the first batch of astronauts they were all chosen from those born in 1960s. So they were already all more than 50 years old. And you know that today the second batch plays a major leading role in our operation phase. You know that Tang Hongbo is already the second commander. The first one is Mr. Chen Dong in the Shenzhou-17 mission. So I think in the future, I believe there are also many of our second batch astronauts act as the commander. But I believe that sooner or later, we can see that our third batch also be the commander of our missions to the Tiangong space station. Moreover, you see that this year we have a very important information. Just several days before, during the interview by the major media.
Yes, we can see
the launch complex.
The launch complex there. They're getting ever closer to the destination, the first destination of the day. Of course, they have
from this
farther destination later in the day.
From this video, you can see that still all the rotational platforms of the service tower is still closed.
Are closed. They will be
to make a closed volume to protect the launch vehicle. So it has a very good environment. And after the astronauts go inside the cabin, and the ground team have already checked everything is okay. And it is very interesting. That's the order of the opening of the rotational platforms. So the top one will be opened first. Then the next will be
stages.
The bottom one. First one on the top, and then the bottom one, and then goes up.
Okay.
So this is because you know that the as we've already discussed, the Long March 2F is a critical part of today's launch, and Long March 2F is the only human-rated launch vehicle of China today. In the future, we will have a derivative of the Long March 10, because Long March 10 have 2 versions. The smaller version will also be,
I think they're pulling over now. They're pulling over now to the pad. And if you're just joining us here on CGTN, this is our special coverage on the Shenzhou-17 mission with 3 taikonauts getting ready to be lifted off into space. The countdown you see on the right bottom corner of the screen is a countdown until liftoff. In about 2.5 hours' time, the liftoff will happen. We'll be bringing you comprehensive coverage of the mission today. A beautiful view of the launch complex here, as Professor Yang was talking about. The rotational platforms are still closed. They will open later when the taikonauts have entered the cabin.
And the reason is that because the Long March 12 is the only human-rated launch vehicle of China, the most important feature is that it has an emergency escape system. This includes emergency escape valve on its top. So when the side hatch of the orbital module has already been closed, so we must activate the emergency escape system to ensure the safety of our astronauts, especially after fueling, because you know that we have more than 400 tons of propellants to pour into the tanks of the launch vehicle. So if anything wrong happens, not only the ground type can, you know that in the launch complex we have a very big pipe. Very big pipe. With this help, the ground team can go through the pipe to the underground cabin to protect themselves. But for the astronaut, because they were already inside the cabin, and they can only use the emergency escape system to escape in a very short moment from the if anything dangerous happened. So that is the reason why we first opened the platform on the top. That's very interesting.
Got it. Professor Liu, aren't you enjoying this beautiful view here today? I mean, clear, clean view of the launch complex that gives us a pretty good idea of what's going to happen, where the taikonauts are. They have exited the vehicle and are now making their way. They're walking to the tower.
Yeah.
They will be taking an elevator to the 9th floor. 9 is the magical number. They will be taking that lift to the 9th floor.
Yeah, because the launch vehicle is the total height of the launch vehicle is more than 50 meters. It's very high, so they will use the elevator to reach the cabin.
It's a beautiful landscape.
Beautiful landscape, absolutely. And
After
we have some
the cheering clouds, and now with the tranquility and with the blessing of the entire Earth, with such a complex that is precisely arranged and also made flawless for such a launch. And you can see that actually the facial expression of these astronauts, they are more relaxed, while our viewers are really getting more stressed and getting more tension.
I know my heart is racing. My heart races at critical points during this mission. Multiple times I can feel my heart racing.
We see the confidence in themselves, but we still keep our best blessing for them.
Beautiful smiles, beautiful confidence that gives me a boost of confidence about the mission. I'm the nervous type. I can never make a taikonaut, but it's absolutely beautiful to watch how calm they are.
Actually, yesterday we were talking, how their parents and their wives and their kids are really feeling about this, seeing all this. I think they also have a very much mixed feeling. They're getting more nervous.
Absolutely.
But of course, with all the confidence they have received through the 3 years of massive drill,
they sure are watching this as well every step of the way.
Yes.
And we've seen camera crews inside their homes who watch with them. It's a very tearful moment. It's a happy moment, happy tears. But then of course they're nervous for their loved ones as they embark on this incredible journey in their life. Even if they just make this mission once, it's going to be incredible. Now they have arrived at the 9th floor, Professor Yang. Very soon they will be helped by other staff. Their boots will come off before they enter the cabin.
The ground staff usually comes from 2 subsystems. One is the astronaut system, who are in charge of the life support of the astronaut, and also in charge of the EVA and IVA spacesuit. So they will conduct many check-ins for the status, technical details of the IVA spacesuit, and also ensure that the status of the astronauts is normal. And also the ground team, another ground team is from the Shenzhou spaceship system. That still there are maybe 2 or 3 ground staff of this team inside the Shenzhou spaceship to prepare everything. And after that, the ground team will help the astronaut to go inside the cabin. You see that you may notice that just behind their head there is a helmet. There is a face mask of the helmet. You know that because it is fragile, so when entering the cabin from the side hatch of the orbital module, the ground staff will help the astronaut to protect the helmet, to protect the face mask of the helmet. So this is also very, very important because we must ensure an airtight sealing when if anything wrong happened to the cabin, because you know that the RDA spacesuits, they just wearing, can provide the second protection for them. You can recognize that as a redundancy to protect their lives. So this is also because it is very complex. Although we have, you know, that the oxygen supply, ventilations inside the cabin, but still we need some checking of everything.
I mean, these gentlemen sure know their angles. They're finding every camera there. They were waving to the camera in front of them. And one of them, I think it's the commander. Is it the commander who sits in the middle?
Yeah.
Mr.
Mr. Tang Hongbo.
Yes, he checked out the other camera to his upper left, and he waved to that camera, making sure that people can see them all the time and know exactly what they're doing. They're being seated now before they enter the cabin. They will enter in a particular order, one by one, into the capsule. We'll see that happen momentarily. Professor Yang, what are they doing now?
As I mentioned, they are waiting for the ground team to help them to finish the verification and all kinds of checking. And as I mentioned, until this moment, still there are ground staff inside the orbital module and even in the re-entry capsule to fix everything. You see that there are so many status we must check and to be configured. So
right,
this one is very
boots,
you can see on the right, you can see the cameras of the inside the orbital module and inside the re-entry capsule.
I mean, everyone is working in such a smooth manner, a smooth fashion, indicating that they've done this many, many times in preparation for this.
The ground staff is helping the astronauts to take off their boots. And you know, that's the Shenzhou spaceship adopted the 3-module design. The orbital module at the front and the re-entry capsule in the middle are pressurized.
You know, we're hearing instructions from multiple monitoring stations.
This voice comes from the, as I mentioned, the Commander 0 to confirm every ground station is okay.
Got it. We'll continue to hear those voices as we get along with this mission, monitoring stations, ground stations, reporting to Commander 0 as we move to the next phase of today's mission. We'll continue to hear their voices throughout our coverage.
So the sequence to enter the Shenzhou spaceship is that they first look. You already seen on the right is the side hatch of the orbital module, and also there is a hole on the payload fairing. So they will first enter this orbital module with the help of the ground team, and then go down to the re-entry capsule.
Is it like a slide down? They just
slide
down?
Exactly. Step down, step down. And you know that because the commander Tang Hongbo stayed in the middle, so he will be the last one to enter the cabin.
Got it.
It is the inner volume of the orbital module and the re-entry capsule. You know the total inner volume is only 7 cubic meters. Very, very narrow.
It does look very narrow. It does look very tight. So everyone is you know, there's not a lot of room for you to move around. You're not supposed to move around once you have entered the cabin.
You know
now we're seeing the inside of the capsule.
So on the top left, we can see the video inside the orbital module. And on the bottom right, we can see the camera inside the re-entry capsule. These two cameras inside the 2 modules of the Shenzhou spaceship. Because you know that today, China has already improved our sequence from the launch to the docking. We only take about 6.5 hours. So it will be more convenient for the astronaut to see only a very short period in this very narrow space. So only after.
But they will spend about 2 hours before the liftoff, right?
Yes, as I mentioned, for
inside
all
the
kinds of
return
checking.
capsule.
So
Yes.
this is very necessary to ensure their safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So a total flight time of about 8 hours,
Yeah.
30 minutes inside.
You may notice that in the bottom right video, we can see the chairs of the 3 astronauts.
Yes, we can.
Each one is customized according to the shape of each astronaut.
Got it. Got it. So that they're more comfortable.
They will
in their
not only for
seats.
comfort be more comfortable, but for their
safety.
safety.
Safety reasons.
Because you know that during the ascending and the re-entry of the capsule, they will experience very, very intensive vibration and also the G-forces. In normal case, in the normal ascending and descending, the G-forces, the peak value is only 3.6, which means that 3.6 times than their own mass.
明白，青山，明白，双城，明白，5号，明白。
Another confirmation from the voices we heard from the chief commander to the
ground
ground stations.
Yes. And the ground stations will continue to monitor the flight once the liftoff happens.
Yes, exactly.
Also.
We have multiple ground stations along the trajectory of the.
How many do we know? How many ground stations?
That depends. As we know, we have stations in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, also in Weinan, and also in Taiyuan Satellite Launch Center, in Qingdao, and also we have our space tracking ships on the Pacific Ocean. Because you know that the separation of the launch vehicle and Shenzhou spaceship usually happened in the Yellow Sea or in the East Sea of China, just near the eastern coast of China. Now we can still see. Look, we can still see ground staff inside our Shenzhou spaceship to prepare everything. And also you can see that just in the orbital module, it is full of cargoes.
Full of cargoes.
Yeah, because you know, as I mentioned, we now only need 6 hours to go to the station, so it is not necessary to provide so many free space for the astronauts, so we can have more cargoes now inside the orbital module. And I believe it is very interesting. Also, we have some fresh food prepared for the Shenzhou-17 crew.
And is the food also, custom made to cater to the tastes of the taikonauts, or?
Absolutely. You know that because your blood will be redistributed in outer space with the influence of microgravity. So usually your tongues will less sensitive comparing with that on the ground.
Right.
So more salty and more spicy food are usually
will be better.
Be welcome.
Well, actually, when they really are detached from the Earth gravity, and there is also risk of degeneration of their bone system, so osteoporosis is likely to happen. So therefore, they need to prepare the food with more vitamin and with more energy inside.
And calcium.
So, that's right. So that has to be custom made for
So it's
each
dietary
of them.
preparation as well to help them really adapt to these conditions.
Yeah, definitely. It's not only adapt to the current condition, but also that's there to help them on a long term to restore their health condition when they really come back on the ground.
5分钟准备完毕，青山。5
So
分钟
this
准
is
备
the
完毕。
drill. This drill. T minus 5 minutes and counting. So this is the drill.
Well, I'm always happy to hear that they're getting a variety of foods up there in space. Let's face it, 6 months is a long time. We're going to have to consider.
But that's a balance. From the view of efficiency, we hope that the astronaut can stay in the station as long as possible. But to consider their influence on their health, so it should
华山
shorten.
3小时准备完毕，报告完毕。北京明白。
And the countdown you see on our screen indicates that the liftoff will happen in just over 2 hours' time.
Yeah.
And the taikonauts are getting ready to enter the module.
10、9、8、7、6、5。
What is this countdown for?
This is a simulation, a drill.
Okay.
1，起飞。
All right, they're doing a last-minute drill of a
With this
countdown
drill,
to
we
lift
can
off.
test every system whether it is okay or not.
T0动8时5拐分59秒36拐毫秒。
So although it is a numerical simulation, but it is also a very important step to ensure the safety of the flight.
Absolutely. So in a little 2 hours' time, the liftoff will happen. The ground staff, ground commanders, have just conducted a last-minute drill, a countdown to make sure that all systems are working effectively and efficiently.
And also very interesting, you can see the 3 astronauts, and inside the pants of IVA spacesuit there are diapers.
There are diapers.
Yeah, because they need to stay there for so many hours, so it is needed. But this diaper is quite different from those in daily usage, because even one of my friends from the China Astronaut Center mentioned that even 2 grams of this diaper can absorb more than 1 kilogram of urine.
Super diapers.
Super diaper,
Super
exactly.
diapers.
Yeah.
Professor Yang, can you tell me if they had a breakfast today? Because this is early in the day.
Very, very early.
This is
very
early. It's,
very
it's, we're almost 9 a.m. now, Beijing time.
Now the ground staff help the what called the 03, the Jiang Xinlin, into the cabin. You may notice that with their help, and also very carefully protect his helmet.
So the first taikonaut is now
first
entering
this is a camera inside the orbital
the
module.
orbital module, and he will slide down to the return
ground
capsule.
Yes, the ground team help him to go down to the re-entry capsule. You can see the hatch is very small.
The hatch is very small. They have to be very careful because there's a lot of cargo. There's a lot of sensitive equipment. These are their custom-made seats. The commander will be sitting in the middle. The other 2 taikonauts by his side. This is, we're still seeing that trail of 1 veteran plus 2 new taikonauts. And
New recruitment.
yes, and they belong to 2 generations of Chinese taikonauts,
So,
the second and third batch of Chinese taikonauts.
So Mr. Jiang Xinlin sit in the seat closest to the camera.
Closest to the camera. That's
So because he is 03.
So he's 03 on this mission, closest to the camera, beside the commander.
No, the next one will be Mr. Tang Shengjie.
Mr. Tang Shengjie is another taikonaut, a new taikonaut embarking on this journey. This is his first mission as well.
So Mr. Tang Shengjie is 02, and he also.
Tang Shengjie is 02 of the mission.
Yeah.
We just saw 03 already entered.
Okay. So first they from the side hatch they enter the orbital module and then go down to the re-entry capsule. And he is 02, so he has a very special task. You know that during the re-entry after touchdown, he has the responsibility to cut off the parachute. So this is a task.
Is it always 02 who cuts?
Always 02,
okay,
because
the
button is very close to him.
Got it. It doesn't matter how the cabin landed, in what angle, in what way.
Yeah,
the cabin landed
exactly.
is always
They must
02.
cut it off because maybe the wind will be very strong and it will be very dangerous if they did not cut down the parachute. So you
Okay.
can see he is in the seat the most farthest to the camera.
He's still making his way. I think he's still adjusting.
Yeah.
They're talking to the ground
team.
staff. Yeah.
So you may notice that
What is this? Can we tell? It's
there are
It's
all kinds of issues they need to handle, and also many confirmation works for them. Now the last one will be the commander.
Yes, this is the orbital module. This is the return capsule.
The button I mentioned is just close to him, just on the side of the hatch. On the side of the cabin, to cut off the parachute. And the last one will be the commander, Tang Hongbo.
This is the commander, Tang Hongbo. He's kind of a legend himself. He will be the first taikonaut to return actually
Exactly.
to the Tiangong space station. And he set a record of the shortest interval between
two flight missions.
manned flight missions. So he's already a legend.
So as I mentioned, the second batch of astronauts, although they only have 7 members, but they will play a major role in this operation and application and development phase.
And the third batch has a lot more taikonauts, as you mentioned, than the second batch. What happens to the people who didn't get selected?
Well, you know that we also have a backup crew just in this Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
For sure.
The backup crew of the Shenzhou-17. I should also emphasize that it is also a great honor to be the backup crew.
Absolutely.
Still, they have very high score.
You have to be outstanding to be selected to be in the third batch in the first place. And even if you didn't make the mission, even if you didn't make Shenzhou-17, you're still a backup taikonaut. That's a great honor in itself.
You know that every fighter pilot are very outstanding personnel. And these astronauts selected are even more outstanding fighter pilots. So you can see how perfect they are.
Well, for Mr. Tang, he already created his legend in his whole life career, and now he's really re-entering this cabinet, and it shows that, his dedication to the type of the work instead of creating his own ego. And this is really reflective of the Chinese value. For some people, they can really boast for their whole life. Writing biographies, having interviews, etc. That's already enough for
You can sit on this achievement.
Trip.
You can dwell on this achievement for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, how many astronauts in the world do we have? How many taikonauts do we have? I mean, this is the achievement of a lifetime for sure. And this year, 2023, also marks 20 years since China's first taikonaut.
And also the second
was
entry
sent
for
into
him
space.
is also telling the world that it is not really highly interest to the astronauts, by traveling. So therefore, he quickly recovered from all possible damage to the health, and now he's back on track. So therefore, it also gave their relatives and their families a sort of assurance that they are still in a very healthy condition, and they turn out to be superb heroes.
Professors, do you think Mr. Yang Liwei, China's first taikonaut, is watching this also?
Yes, absolutely.
I believe so.
Yang Liwei.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
So
20
years
20th
ago.
anniversary.
He also created
a great
history,
year.
and
Absolutely.
now there are young successors with more of their vigor and passion, and also with a far better preparedness after 20 years of experience.
And this is the youngest crew we've seen so far, with an average age of 39 years old. Of course, Mr. Tang Hongbo is older. The other two taikonauts were born in 1988 and 1989. That's my age bracket. I can't imagine doing something remotely close to what they're pulling off today.
Mr. Tang Hongbo is not only the oldest in this crew, but also he is the oldest in the second batch of astronauts of China. He has a master's degree, and the other two have bachelor's degree.
So he participated in Shenzhou-12 in 2021, 2 years ago. That's what we mean by the shortest interval between two manned flight missions.
Yeah. Shenzhou-12 mission is a very important milestone in China's space activities.
计算机理论弹道检查正常。探员。计算机理论弹道检查正常。
Safety belts in there?
计算机理论弹道检查正
So they're
常。
buckling up.
计算机理论弹道检查正
We
常。
just heard the test, the verification of the computer and trajectory.
计算机理论弹道检查正常。
The theoretical
计算机
trajectory.
理论弹道检查正常。
It must be checked
理论弹道
normally.
检查正常。
It is carefully designed and calculated. usually, you know that to launch and rendezvous with another spacecraft in orbit, we usually adopted the zero launch window, which means that the accuracy of the launch time, the liftoff moment, must be accurate than 1 second. But because you know that we have a margin of energy on the launch vehicle, so today we have improved the zero launch window to narrow launch window, which means that we can also still have an adjustment within several minutes or several seconds.
I mean, Professor Liu recapped for us right from the 1970s. It's been a long time, and it's also been 20 years since China's first taikonaut, Mr. Yang Liwei, was able to pull off that first flight successfully. So, I mean, to be able to see all of this must be, remarkable for everyone involved in China's manned space program. And Yang Liwei flew alone, and they've got, company today. I think it must be, I'm not going to say easier, but you are, as human beings, you are naturally reassured, you're more relieved in the company of your kind, of fellow human beings, of fellow colleagues, of other taikonauts.
Yeah, behind all this is really the economic power that's really propels China's the rapid research and advance of the technology in the outer space, and also that the Chinese ambition really to be there to share the scientific data with the rest of the world, and also to have the commercial launch. Of course, we are also in competition with some of the leading stations from the United States and from the former USSR. And now the unique part is that China is really proposing an inclusive and open operation and sharing of the data for commercial use and for the help of the civic use around the whole world. And also we work very closely with the United Nations on such type of programs. And this is really something that it is the Chinese dream, but also it contributes to the community of the shared future for the entire mankind. And now we have gone through several stages of our space development. Actually, since 1992, when we had the blueprint to have our space station, and with the rocket development, also with the further expansion of our space program. And now we come to today and see that people are really now getting regularized actually with such sort of activities. Is no longer a sort of adventure, but it's a regular activity. And also for daily for ordinary people on daily basis, we have the GPS system that that's there to direct us to any destination we would desire, and also with more of the traffic load that people can really enjoy. So it's all thanks to the Chinese the efforts, and also the entire inputs the whole country has really put into to explore the outer space and direct us into a new fashion of life.
Extraordinary efforts over a span of decades contributing to what we're seeing today. If you think about it, really it's miraculous, it's magical, it's worth a celebration. I mean, they're holding some books, some manuals, handbook.
The handbook also, there are all kinds of procedures, all critical steps, and also all configurations, specifications they must check. And also,
are they checking off items on the list one by one?
One by one. And also, that more important thing in the handbook is the what to handle in abnormal cases. So not only those in the normal procedure will be included, but the abnormal will be more important, I believe. So that is also the importance of the commander and also the other Mr. 02 act as backup for each other as a pilot of this Shenzhou spacecraft. If anything wrong happened to the automatic system, they can pilot the ship manually. So this is a very important measure to ensure the safety of the flight.
I always find it a little amusing that they're holding these hard copies, actual paper books in their hands.
Yeah, instead of an iPad or
why can't
like
it be
that.
done electronically? Why can't they check things off from a screen? Why do they have to have handbooks?
Because with electronics, the
they won't
absolutely
work.
the reliability
Yeah.
is less than the
Okay.
printed one.
That's right.
Okay, things can go wrong
Yeah.
electronically, but
It's
hard
fragile,
copy.
and also maybe something wrong of the power supply. Maybe
there could be
else.
blackout
Yeah.
on the way, and also it's just been 6 months, and so that's why it's more reliable with the original one, and it's also a logbook so that they can really keep a record of every tiny details that might be shared as really important information for their successors and also for scientific research.
Hard copies are obviously more reliable. As is indicated on our screen, we're about 2 hours from that liftoff. That's how much time the taikonauts will remain in their capsule, waiting for the liftoff.
We now can also hear the voice from the Beijing Flight Control Center because the Zhou-Qian Launch Center is only one system, the launch side system. And the Beijing Flight Control Center actually is in charge of the whole system of systems.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more, Professor Yang, about how the Beijing Aerospace Control Center cooperate with the Zhou-Qian Center. What are their different responsibilities and their job delegations?
Actually speaking, the Zhou-Qian Launch Center,
The platforms
as I
are
mentioned,
opening.
the top rotational platform will be first opened to expose the emergency escape tower to ensure that when the side hatch is closed, the emergency escape system can be activated. Even just 2 hours before the launch, we can ensure the safety of our astronauts. And that at this moment still there are ground staff in the launch complex, and if anything dangerous happened, as I mentioned, there is a pipe inside this service tower, so they can go down very fast into the underground cabin to protect themselves through the through the pipe.
It's a huge complex, and some people might imagine it's just several stacks of rockets. So now it's shown it's really a huge complex.
It's a huge complex standing at what Professor Yang said, 15 meters?
More than the height, the total height of the launch vehicle is more than 50 meters. So the launch complex is even higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's another very interesting is that, look, this is a launch complex, and the vehicle assembly building, or the VAB, is just 2 kilometers from it. And today, at this moment, the Shenzhou-17 spacecraft and the Long March 2F Y-18 rocket is already standing by in the vehicle assembly building.
When you say standing by, do they mean that they're ready to be transported? Or they
are ready to be conducted an emergency rescue mission.
okay?
Now we can see the emergency escape top. Actually speaking, it is composed of several solid rocket motors. Some is to drag the single spaceship from the rocket to a certain distance, and the other smaller ones to control the attitude.
I mean, how far into this mission, how far into the flight is the escape tower good for? I mean, beyond a point, I imagine it would be too late for the escape tower to be used.
That's the emergency escapes. Actually speaking, there are two parts. One is what we mentioned as the emergency escape tower. The other part is some rocket motors just on the payload fairing. So in different ways, as you asked, that after liftoff, and after pitch over of the rocket, the first separation will be the jettisoning of the emergency escape tower, because in a very high altitude and just after the whole spacecraft is already in supersonic flight, and so there do not need the emergency escape tower any longer. And as that will be the separation of the boosters.
The pitchover happens about 12 seconds into the flight, and the first
usually
separation
is about 100 seconds also, just after liftoff.
All right, if you're just joining us here on CGTN, we're bringing into you live coverage of the Shenzhou-17 mission, which will see 3 taikonauts launched into China's Tiangong space station. We're a little less than 2 hours from the liftoff, and CGTN's Zheng Yibing is standing by for us at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. The center monitoring the situation closely, obviously. Yibing, good morning to you. What are you seeing at the control center?
Well, yes, Zhongshi, I just saw you talking with Professor Yang Yuguanghe just to share with the insight how this working system at the Beijing and the Aerospace Center is working closely with all other systems. Just like you said, it oversees all working systems for the China manned space program. For example, the rocket, the spacecraft, and the overseeing monitoring system, both at land and sea, and also the launch and landing site in Jiuquan, in northwestern part of China. And this morning, all the working staff here are busy working. We see they actually didn't sleep last night. Got fully prepared for this morning's mission. And they have to set up the status, the parameters of all these systems, for example, the rocket, the spacecraft. And right now, right behind me, we can see on the big screen, there are 2 photos on the top. It's the Shenzhou-17 3 members are inside the re-entry module already and making the final preparation. And at the bottom, we can see the launch pad of the Shenzhou-17 mission. So this is a really great feeling, because during the last mission in May 30, I was in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center here. This time, I'm here in the Aerospace Control Center in Beijing. So this feeling makes me really excited. I can see the all working system working together. So that's the basic information here. We'll keep you updated during the following programs before the launch mission. Back to you, Zhongshi.
Yibing, we appreciate that update from you. Thank you so much for keeping us posted. For our viewers just joining us here on CGTN, we are bringing to you live coverage of China's Shenzhou-17 mission, which will see 3 taikonauts launched into space to China's Tiangong space station. Now the 3 taikonauts are being seated in the return capsule. They're waiting for the liftoff, which will happen in less than 2 hours' time. In just a little over 1 hour, 50 minutes, we'll be watching this process for you here on CGTN. Now, a little bit background information in terms of the mission. During the Shenzhou-17 mission, the crew will rotate with the Shenzhou-16 trio. The 3-person team will stay in orbit for about 6 months and return to the ground in April next year. Shenzhou-16 mission members will return on October 30th this year. Since the Shenzhou-17 is the second manned mission of Tiangong's application and development phase, the in-orbit tasks for the 3 taikonauts will become more normal and regular. The Shenzhou-17 taikonauts will perform various in-orbit space science and application payload tests and experiments. They will carry out extravehicular activities, install extravehicular payloads, and conduct space station maintenance and other tasks. Notably, the Shenzhou-17 crew will carry out experimental extravehicular maintenance tasks of the Tiangong space station. For the first time, a Long March 2F rocket will lift the 3 taikonauts off into space at 11:14 a.m. Beijing time. That's 03:14 GMT. They will take over from the in-orbit Shenzhou-16 crew and will spend about 6 months inside China's own space station. Professor Yang, let's talk about something they will do for the first time in terms of their tasks once they go into the space station. Maintenance, experimental extravehicular maintenance tasks of the Tiangong space station. Can you shed light on just how challenging that will be?
You know that let's go back to history. You know, today the human being already have 4 generations of space stations. The Mir space station belongs to the 3rd generation, and the ISS and China's Tiangong space station belongs to the 4th generation. You can see that both the Mir space station and the ISS works much longer than their designed lifespan. So we hope that it is similar to our Tiangong space station. To work much longer than the designed lifespan, we can have more returns in scientific research to benefit the whole human being. So this is what we want. And to do this, you know that the basic thing is with a longer operation period, it is more frequently we can see some malfunction of everything, of some parts of the subsystems of the station. So the repairing and maintenance will be a very, very important task to not only ensure the designed lifespan, but to extend it and to as long as possible. So with this purpose, we must test the corresponding technologies for this maintenance. But it is very complex. You know that there are many tasks inside the stations, so it will be relatively easier, but also many things happen outside the station. So we must prepare for that moment when something wrong happens, as we've already discussed, maybe the impact of the space debris. Of course, we've already considered the protection to these space debris. For instance, for those the parts and the debris smaller than 1, with the diameter smaller than 1 centimeter, we use the shield to protect the station. But this is depends. You know that even if we have a shield, and usually it doesn't matter when the space debris hit it. But for some critical parts, for instance, as we already discussed, the solar panels and some antennas, if the space debris hit on these parts, still there will be very serious malfunction. So we must prepare for everything, any possibility of these kind of things. And when it happens, we must have the measure and also can do it in time to fix it. So this is the point we develop this kind of maintenance.
I mean, this is basically unavoidable. It's inevitable that you will have some type of impact from
the space debris
from asteroids, small asteroids.
And also, so it is inevitable for a very long period.
So this was taken into consideration when you designed the space
exactly.
station.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, you see that if I remember right, the Tiangong was designed for the normal lifespan of 10 years, and now it is expandable to another 15 years. And by really the right type of maintenance, it saves the cost, and also it makes sure the consistency of data and the continuity of such sort of the collection. And but exposure is really something that is unavoidable. It's not only the solar panels, but some of the camera screens can also be hit by particles that was not really expected. And so yes, you have the plan B, but to have the right type of maintenance is something that that is first. In its own first place, it's also a challenging test to expand our activities beyond the capsule, and it is already a science research by itself. And of course, it also helps to really to expand the lifespan and maintain the soundness of such sort of operation.
Yes, professors, it does seem like everything that they can do.
Yeah, you can see that not only Mr. Tang Hongbo, but Mr. Tang Shengjie, the 02, is also reading the manual very carefully, reading their handbook very carefully. So this is a very important preparation for the flight, for the ascending phase. And also, it's very interesting, you know, that according to the previous missions, at this moment, it is quite possible that our Shenzhou-17 crew is also watching the live coverage. Because you know that today we already have our Tianlian data relay satellite, we can transfer very high definition video via these Tiantian data relay satellite. Just time I can still remember that when Miss Liu Yang watched the liftoff of the Shenzhou-17 crew, they also shook their hands.
I mean, they are one of a few people that really know what is going on the minds of these taikonauts. I mean, they can relate. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly.
They relate the best.
Look, you can see this is a camera inside the orbital module. We can see that it seems that the hatch between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule has already closed.
Oh, it's closed?
Yeah, it's closed. Now we can see also in the middle of the camera, of the screen, that we can see another hatch is the side hatch on the orbital module.
I mean, also talk to us about the cargo here. You mentioned there's a lot of cargo that we can see with the camera inside the orbital module. What does the cargo entail here?
Some are the resupplies to the station. As I mentioned, possibly they have many fresh food prepared for the Shenzhou-16 crew. And also, I believe there are many cargoes belongs to the scientific research system or the application system. You know that for any biological study, it is very interesting. Usually we have some live animals, such as the flies and also some live plants. So we must provide a very good condition for these kind of samples and to keep it in and to bring it to the station in a very short period, because we need a very very serious condition for these kind of biological samples. And also, you know that during the Shenzhou-16 mission, just both in their the ascending phase and also during the Tianzhou-6 mission, it brings many very important biological samples to the station, and they conducted their scientific research in the Tianhe-1 core module and in the Wentian module. So this scientific research has already get a very good contribution to the science and also to biological study in China. So in the future, you know that we've already have some joint experiments between China and other countries. So sooner or later, we can also see the instruments developed and manufactured by other countries, and with either this Shenzhou spaceship or the Tianzhou cargo ship to be on board the Tiangong space station, and the experiments will be conducted by Chinese astronauts.
I mean, China has officially extended invitation to the participation of international foreign astronauts. So that, you know, we could see that happen relatively soon. We're going to be talking about live timelines later in our program. But professors, thank you for your analysis so far. I'll be back with you later in our program. And China has also made a series of efforts in its exploration of the broader universe. Scientists also aim to uncover more mysteries about the Red Planet with a Tianwen-1 mission and pursue the long-held curiosity about life on the moon, as noted in numerous ancient Chinese legends and poems. As the Earth's only natural satellite, China's Chang'e missions seek to bring some clarity to several lunar questions. The country has also spent decades to perfect its space exploration program. Let's now take a closer look at the stories behind China's space ambition.
Sounded like in Baghdad.
Against the Al-Qaeda terrorist tendencies.
华山出轨根数及分离点参数发出，景山。
景山收到。
东风。
东风收到。
各号注意，我是景山。景山出轨根数及分离点参数已发出。东风。
东风收到。
华山。
华山收到。
各号注意，我是东风。各号停。收集第一次综合检查情况，景山。
景山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
08号。
第一次综合检查正常。
太原。
第一次综合检查正常。
渭南。
第一次综合检查正常。
青岛。
第一次综合检查正常。
酒泉。
第一次综合检查正常。
青山。
第一次综合检查正常。
双城。
第一次综合检查正常。
5号。
第一次综合检查正常。
东风，我是华山。
我是东风，华山请讲。
华山第一次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山、江阴、天路及长江6号第一次综合检查正常。
东风明白。 北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
各号注意，我是东风，收集航天员进舱后话音检查准备情况。北京。
准备完毕。
酒泉。
话音检查准备完毕。
0号，我是东风。
0号到。
话音检查准备完毕。
0号明白。 东风，我是0号，航天员进舱后话音检查正常。
东风明白。北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
各号注意，我是东风，话音检查正常。北京。
北京明白。
酒泉。
明白。
Complex there, and these are live pictures coming from inside the return capsule where the 3 taikonauts have been seated waiting for liftoff. Liftoff is scheduled at 11:14 a.m. Beijing time, less than 1 hour, 30 minutes away. We'll be bringing you comprehensive coverage of the Shenzhou-17 mission, including, of course, the liftoff. The 3 taikonauts have now been seated in their seats in the return capsule. Last-minute preparation is being done before the liftoff. They're holding handbooks in their hands, checking off items that must be completed before the liftoff. I'm now joined in the studio by Professors Yang Yuguang and Liu Baocheng. Professor Yang, bring us up to speed on what we're watching right now. I mean, the ground staff obviously are still there. They have not evacuated the launch tower.
You can see that just now the ground staff is leaving the orbital module. So I believe the next step they will close the hatch of the orbital module, and then that's just on the same side of the payload fairing. There are also another hatch. They will also close it, and the sealing have very good sealing of that. So after that, the Shenzhou spaceship and the payload fairing of the Long March 2F rocket will be in the final status, and then the ground staff will leave the launch complex. This is also a very important security procedure to ensure that all ground staff, no exceptions, has already on the ground, and they will leave the launch complex with the via ground vehicle. So only after that we can continue our countdown and to the final moment. At this moment, you can see the just in this floor of the launch complex, we can see that the most of these ground team are from the spaceship system to check if everything is okay. So the team from the astronaut system has already accomplished their tasks to help the astronauts to check their IVA spacesuits and to make sure everything is okay, and then they leave. So everything is in a normal preparation, and we can see that constantly we can also hear the voice from the commander and ensure that every system goes okay. It's go for launch. And with this video, we can see not only the launch complex, but also the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building, 2 kilometers away from the launch tower. But also, that we can. This is a video from I believe from UAV, manned air vehicle. Usually during the launch, we have multiple cameras and radar to monitor the status of especially the trajectory of the launch vehicle if it goes okay. So every system must work in very normal status, and that as Mr. Zheng Yibing has already mentioned, the launch side system is also standing by at this moment, because that the rescue team belongs to the landing side system. During the ascending phase of the launch vehicle, if anything wrong happened, they conducted an emergency escape, the rescue team will find our astronaut as soon as possible. But of course, on the other hand, our astronauts must have their ability to survive in wild field. So this is also very necessary. Still, you can see that, as you mentioned, on the right side is the camera. The video comes from the camera inside the re-entry capsule. All 3 astronauts already sit there, already fastened their safe belt. I believe that just several minutes before the launch, they will close the face masks of their helmet and they will have the protection of their IV spacesuit for their if any leakage happens to the cabin. They will have their IV spacesuit to protect them still in the pressurized environment. You know, as seen from the video on the left side of this video, you can see that the launch complex, the rotational platform is still, most of them are closed. Only the top one is open, and the emergency escape system, I believe, at this moment is already activated. So the next step, I think that at this moment, all the propellant tanks has already been filled with the UDMH, or unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrazine, as the fuel, and also NTO, nitrogen tetroxide, as the oxidizer. So all the, because this is a hypergolic propulsion system in room temperature, and all these propellants has already been filled to the launch vehicle very properly. And then also there are routinary checking and confirmation of everything, and then we go for launch.
I mean, thanks to the abundance of cameras, we were able to see the launch mission from different angles, including after the liftoff. We're going to be able to see the trajectory of the flight from cameras mounted onto the rocket.
Yes, there. You know, that's every time we have a camera mounted on the second stage, on the second stage of the rocket, looking backwards. So we can see that we can from that camera we can see 2 of the 4 boosters, and also we have cameras mounted inside this payload fairing to monitoring the status of the Shenzhou spaceship. And with this camera we can see the separation between the second stage and the Shenzhou spaceship. If the only when the separation is conducted, we can see that this is a successful launch.
And Professor Liu, can I get your take on the impression of the lineup of the taikonauts this time? It's the same combination of 2 new astronauts and 1 veteran. In this case, Mr. Teng Hongbo is the veteran here. He set a record of the shortest interval between manned flights. His first flight was back in 2021 with the Shenzhou-12 mission. This is his second flight. Also, he'll be the first one to return to China's Tiangong space station. So he's a legend already. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. I think one, it shows that there's the successive passage of knowledge and skills by combining the previous batch of the astronaut as the leader with the young astronauts. And so this is really a strategic arrangement. And second, they are the youngest on the average age. So it shows that the Chinese astronauts are really there to be getting younger, and younger generations are getting more and more up to speed. And third is that the combination of their knowledge. They are not really doing very hefty scientific research in the station, but they have to have all the knowledge and sensitivity to observe and also collect all the information and keep a very clear, orderly record and for the research on the ground. And so this is something that's very much encouraging. And then, of course, their health conditions are really superbly drilled, very well prepared. And the past experience of the previous crews do also give not only their knowledge, but also more of the confidence in handling their own health and their living environment, and together with their professional activities that is there to be conducted.
Professors, stay with me here on our program. I'll be back with you in a short moment. The Tianwen-1 is China's first Mars mission, launched back in 2020. And CGTN's Yang Zhao explains how the orbiter completed its mission.
Mars has become a graveyard for robots. More than half of the 47 missions so far have ended in failures of various kinds. But we humans just love throwing robots in Mars. There have been 1 or 2 missions every couple of years for the past 2 decades. But this month alone, there have been 3 separate missions. Tianwen-1 from China, Perseverance from the US, and Hope from the UAE. So what's going on out there? Well, the launching window in July offers a great saving on fuel. Like airlines, space agencies want to find the shortest route to Mars. But it's not when the two planets are at their closest, as you might think. Well, the solar system is constantly shifting. Every time Mars completes a single orbit, Earth goes around Sun almost twice. That makes space travel far more complicated than a straight line on Earth. Actually, if you launch when two planets are at their closest distance, a point known as Mars opposition, your robots may never get to Mars. Instead, scientists will patiently wait for a time when Mars has a head start. Then they will not aim the spacecraft towards where the Mars is at a launch time, because by the time you get there, the Mars will have already moved right here. Instead, they need to point it somewhere ahead. And where Mars is going to be when you arrive. This orbit has been called the Hohmann Transfer Orbit, which was first proposed in 1925. Everything needs to be calculated carefully because this launch window happens for just a few weeks every 26 months. Now the window is open, and missing it means 2 more years of waiting. Well, transfer orbit will take Tianwen-7 months to travel hundreds of millions of kilometers. Choosing a shorter way would ironically require more fuel. The best things about this orbit is that theoretically, the propulsion system just needs to kick in twice during the trip. To get off Earth at the beginning and catch up Mars when it approaches. And you should barely use fuel in between. When it's getting a bit more closer, at about 400 kilometers away from Mars, it needs to slow down in time so that it can be captured by the planet's gravity and become a satellite of it, or it may miss Mars forever.
And more than 1 hour remains until the Shenzhou-17 spacecraft's blast off, as the staff and the 3 taikonauts are making their final checkups. But for now, let's turn things over to my colleague Ho Na with a quick roundup of the latest world stories we're following for you this hour. Ho Na,
hello there, Zhongxi, and welcome to the World Today. Now let's take a look at the news making headlines around the world.
各号注意，收集2小时准备情况。0号。
2小时准备完毕。
太原。
2小时准备完毕。
渭南。
2小时准备完毕。
青岛。
2小时准备完毕。
酒泉。
2小时准备完毕。
青山。
2小时准备完毕。
双城。
2小时准备完毕。
5号。
2小时准备完毕。
天仓。
2小时准备完毕。
really the primary elements of learning how to live and work in outer space. It's wonderful to see that new focus from all these nations, from particularly some of the largest populations on Earth focused on space.
See, we have seen the growth of China in space sector is really tremendous. I think you are giving a lot of push to create the required infrastructure in terms of technology capability, in terms of building new systems and launching new missions. I think this shows your directions are very forward looking, and I am very appreciative of that part of the work that you are doing. And it is also goes with the long-term vision that you have created for the space sector.
Why not? This is also a possibility, but sending an astronaut is a possibility. But before that, we can give some experiments to be realized, to be done in Tiangong space station. And because in ISS we will hold 13 experiments, our astronaut, but that's not all. We have many more. So when we find the opportunity, why not? We can also do it in together with CNSA in the space station.
Three taconauts embark on a new journey to China's space station aboard Shenzhou-17.
20 years after the first Chinese man took a historic step.
China aims to rapidly advance its capabilities into space.
Join us on CGTN for China's flight mission to explore the space and beyond.
"各号注意，我是北京，1小时准备。东风。
东风明白。
华山。
华山明白。
江阴。 景山。
各号注意，
景山明白。
1小时准备。
长城。
0号。
明白。
太原。
天宫。
明白。
渭南。
明白。
青岛。
曙光。
明白。
酒泉。
银河。明白。
青山。
明白。
双城。
明白。
5号。
明白。
天仓。
明白。
各号注意，我是东风，第2次综合检查，5分钟准备。景山。
景山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
08号。
明白。
太原。
明白。
渭南。
明白。
青岛。
明白。
酒泉。
明白。
青山。
明白。
双城。
明白。
5号。
明白。
东风，我是华山。
我是东风，华山请讲。
华山第2次综合检查，5分钟准备完毕。
东风明白。
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山、江阴、天路及长江6号第2次综合检查，5分钟准备完毕。
东风明白。各号注意，收集5分钟准备情况。08号。
5分钟准备完毕。
太原。
5分钟准备完毕。
渭南。
5分钟准备完毕。
青岛。
5分钟准备完毕。
酒泉。
5分钟准备完毕。
青山。
5分钟准备完毕。
双城。
5分钟准备完毕。
5号。
5分钟准备完毕。
各号注意，我是东风，第2次综合检查1分钟准备。50秒。40秒。30秒。20秒。10、9、8、7、6、5、4、3、2、1，起飞。T0，腰动时19分59秒，拐腰动毫秒。T0，腰动时19分59秒，拐腰动毫秒。各号注意，我是东风。各号停，收集第2次综合检查情况。景山。
景山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
08号。
第2次综合检查正常。
太原。
第2次综合检查正常。
渭南。
第2次综合检查正常。
青岛。
第2次综合检查正常。
酒泉。
第2次综合检查正常。
青山。
第2次综合检查正常。
双城。
第2次综合检查正常。
5号。
第2次综合检查正常。
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山，江阴天路长江6号，第2次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
东风，我是华山。
我是东风，华山请讲。
华山第2次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
北京景山报告。
我是北京景山，请讲。
景山报告测量船当前海况及1小时准备情况。长江6号海况4级，浪高1.5米，风力4级，能见度15公里。景山天路长江6号1小时准备完毕。景山报告完毕。
北京明白。我是北京江阴，请讲。北京明白。北京华山报告。我是北京华山，请讲。华山1小时准备完毕，报告完毕。北京明白。我是北京曙光，请讲。北京明白。我是北京长城，请讲。北京明白。我是北京天宫，请讲。北京明白。我是北京银河，请讲。北京明白。我是北京天舟，请讲。北京明白。
各号注意，收集1小时准备情况0号。
1小时准备完毕。
太原。
1小时准备完毕。
渭南。
1小时准备完毕。
青岛。
1小时准备完毕。
酒泉。
1小时准备完毕。
青山。
1小时准备完毕。
双城。
1小时准备完毕。
5号。
Actually speaking,
1小时准备完毕。
it is now less than 1 hour.
1小时准备完毕。
To the launch, but you know that's what it mentioned. The voice mentioned the 1 hour preparation is a portion that lasts for several minutes. So the Commander Zero must confirm that the 1 hour preparation has already been done for all these systems. There should be no exception and go for launch. And you see, as we already mentioned, that the rotational platforms will be opened one by one, because just before that we have to conduct all kinds of checking, and also, as you mentioned, the preparation work for the astronaut system and for this Shenzhou spaceship system. So the opening, the rotational platforms forms a closed volume and give a very good protection to the combination of the rocket and the Shenzhou spaceship.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about the rocket. The Long March 2F rocket has proved to be a reliable one for the manned missions. How has the Long March series developed over the years to reach a reliable model that can be used consistently for China's current and future manned flights?
Well, this is very interesting. In the previous videos, we already mentioned about the commercial space activities. You see that this is also related to commercial space activity. You know that China entered the international commercial launch service market in 1980s, while the first commercial launch is in 1990, the launch of the Asia Satellite 1, which was built by Hughes Company in US, accuracy a Hughes 376 model. The satellite is called Asia Satellite 1 by the launch of the Long March 3 launch vehicle. But honestly speaking, at that moment, the capability of China's launch vehicle cannot meet the requirement of most satellites in the international market. So China developed another much more powerful launch vehicle called the Long March 2E, with 4 boosters added to the core stage. And with this Long March 2E, you know, that's the capability is 8.8 tons to low Earth orbit. So it's already big enough to launch a spaceship in orbit. So that made a good foundation for the Chinese manned space program. You know, also, you know that in 1990s, in the year 1992, with the establishment of the formally the setup of China's manned space program, we have another derivative of this Long March 2E, the Long March 2F. The Long March 2E and the Long March 2F both are 2.5 stage rockets. With the core stage have 2 stages, the first stage and second stage, and 4 boosters. But the difference is that we have a malfunction detection system on board the Long March 2F. So the reliability of the Long March 2F is much higher than the Long March 2E. It can reach to 0.97, which means that for 100 launches, only 3 of them may have some malfunction. But still, this, you know, that this is still not safe enough for astronauts. So we added another important system called the emergency escape system. So with this system, the safety to the astronauts can reach to 0.997. Which means that for 1,000 launches, only 3 of them will threaten the safety of the astronauts. So this is the difference between the Long March 2F and the Long March 2E. But both these 2 launch vehicles utilize the, what I have already mentioned, the hypergolic propulsion system, which uses propellants with room temperature, which is more convenient for usage, but with low energy compared with the new generation. But it is already very practical with the UDMH and the NTO as the propellants. So the first stage have 4 engines, and the 4 boosters each have 1 engine. Each engine has a thrust of about 75 tons. So the total liftoff thrust is 600 tons, and the total mass of the liftoff mass of the launch vehicle is more than 500 tons. Okay, T-minus 30 minutes.
T-minus 30 minutes. We're 30 minutes away from the liftoff. I mean, Professor, you've been comparing the Long March 2F with 2E, other models in the same series. I mean, countries that are capable of rocket science use their own rockets, the United States, India. How does the Long March 2F compare with, for example, Falcon and the rockets that India uses?
The capability of the Long March 2F has the lower capability than the Falcon 9. But the Long March 5B launch vehicle, the capability is greater than the Falcon 9 currently used by the SpaceX. But you know that, of course, the Falcon 9 is a human-rated launch vehicle. It can launch the crewed Dragon spaceship. So from the view of human-rated launch vehicle, it is bigger and have greater capability than the Long March 2F launch vehicle. But you know, until now, the India do not have a human-rated launch vehicle because all their tests are unmanned. They will plan their first maiden flight of their future manned spaceship Gagayan maybe within this year or the next year. So they must conduct, as formally announced by my colleague in International Astronautical Federation, the chairman of the ISRO, Mr. Dr. Samanas. So they will first conduct maybe 3 to 4 manned flights of the Gagayan manned spaceship, and then conduct the first crewed mission. And in the future, they also have a plan to have their own space station and the human missions to the moon.
Is the Long March rocket series still developing, still evolving? What more functions, how much more reliability and capabilities can we expect to be developed along the Long March series?
Before answering this question, let's look at the video. We can see that this is also a camera. This is a video from a camera mounted on the rotational platforms. So you can see that the distance is increasing with the launch vehicle. And as I mentioned, you can see that in the yellow ones, you can see some small arms still attached to the launch vehicle because we still have pipes and the cables connected to the launch vehicle with these small arms. And so finally, all the platform will be opened. So let's continue our discussion. As you asked, yes, of course, although you know that Long March 2F is the only human-rated launch vehicle of China, but still we are now developing the new versions. You see that according to Mr. Zhang Hailian, the Deputy Chief Designer of China Manned Space Program, during the forum just in July this year, he introduced the detailed plan of China's human missions to the moon. And during this mission, the major role will come from the Long March 10 launch vehicle. It is a heavy launch vehicle in China. The capability is 27 times to the lunar transfer orbit. You know that, as we discussed, the most powerful launch vehicle of China is Long March 5. And the capability of Long March 5 is about 8.3 times to lunar transfer orbit, which means that it can bring an object about 8.3 times to go to the moon. But you know, of course, it is not big enough to conducting manned missions to the moon. So in the future, we will have the Long March 10 launch vehicle, which can bring our astronauts through the new generation manned spaceship to the translunar orbit for the moon missions. And you know, we will use 2 launches. One to launch the lunar lander, a manned lunar lander, but in an unmanned status to the circumlunar orbit, and it will wait there. And then the second launch will have our 3 crew members on board our new generation spaceships with the Long March 10 launch vehicle also to the lunar transfer orbit. And the 2 spacecraft, the new generation spaceship and the lunar lander, will rendezvous and dock in the lunar orbit and then conduct the landing on the moon.
In terms of the rendezvous and docking today, I mean, after 6.5 hours into the flight, the mission will conduct a fast automated rendezvous and docking with the front port of the Tianhe core module and forming a 3 spacecraft, 3 module assembly.
Exactly. You see, that's for any spacecraft, the launch to chasing and rendezvous docking with another spacecraft, especially in the low Earth orbit, the basic and the most important requirement that when the second spacecraft come into the orbit, it must be in the same orbital plane of the first one. So this is the most important requirement, because you know that the low Earth orbit, the spacecraft in the low Earth orbit has a very high velocity, 7.8 kilometers per second. So even a very slight error in the orbital plane between the two vehicles may cause they will lose the chance for rendezvous and dock. So they must be in the same orbital plane. But on the other hand, you see that the orbital plane of our station is relatively stable in the universe. So we can only launch our Shenzhou spaceship when the launch site, the launch complex, rotating together with the Earth, when it rotated to the position just almost in the same orbital plane of the Tiangong space station. So that is the reason why we read this zero launch window. So it is very narrow and very strict. So this also raises a very high requirement to the reliability and robustness of our launch vehicle and the Shenzhou spaceship, because we must check everything. If anything wrong happened, we must stop the procedure, and maybe the launch window today will be abandoned. So we will list at least 1 day. And as you mentioned, today we choose the fast rendezvous and docking. It raises an even higher requirement to the launch itself, because not only it requires the two spacecraft to be enter the same orbital plane, but also their position in this orbital plane have some requirement to meet the requirement for the fast rendezvous. For 6.5 hours. Usually, you know that for this kind of mission in 2011, we used 2 days. So this is also an even more strict requirement. And you know that our Tianzhou spaceship also make a world record to using less than 2 hours from launch to rendezvous and dock with the Tiangong space station. But for the manned spaceship, we keep a good balance between the how fast it is and how reliable it is. So 6 hours is already very, very comfortable for astronauts. You may experience that every day you you drive your car. Of course, you stay as short as possible in your car between the transfer, because it is too narrow in the car. Of course, if you stay in the room, it will be much more comfortable. You can recognize our Shenzhou space station as a room. And the Shenzhou spaceship as a car. So with shorter period stay in the Shenzhou spaceship, they'll be more comfortable.
Absolutely, it's a remarkable commute to an office room, to a living quarters, whichever way you put it. And if you're watching our special program today on CGTN, through CGTN live streaming on our social media platforms, we value your feedback also. Feel free to leave your questions. We'll put some of these questions to my guests here in the studio, Professor Yang Yuguang and Professor Liu Baocheng. They will be more than happy to take your questions, and we encourage you to do that as you stay with us on our special coverage of the Shenzhou-17 mission. We are now about 21 minutes away from the liftoff. These light pictures from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center show a quiet, serene scene there at the launch complex. The rotating platforms have opened.
You can see at this moment, all the rotational platforms has already opened. I believe that at this moment, the ground team has already at least withdrawn from the service tower. And maybe not all withdrawn from the launch complex, but absolutely they will already left the service tower. But as I mentioned, still at this moment, there are several small arms in brown color which still attached to the launch vehicle. To give electricity, the gases, and also the other supplies. Also, you know that there are air conditioners inside our payload ferry to give a very comfortable condition for our Shenzhou spaceship.
And the 3 taikonauts seem ready and relatively comfortable given the condition in their seats, holding handbooks.
Yeah, you may notice the packages between the luggage between the different astronauts. You know that there is a very interesting requirement. The position of the center of the mass of the re-entry capsule is very, very strict. This will influence, especially that during the re-entry, it will influence the safety of the astronaut and also the position where they can land. So this, that's the different people have a different weight. So even the slight difference between the weight of different astronauts must be considered.
And they could they gain and lose weight during that 6 months? I mean, that's
that there is the standard criteria.
I mean, they measure. I assume they weigh themselves on a regular basis just to make sure health element, to make sure their health is in check. But what if they gain weight or lose some weight during that 6 months stay?
This is also part of the research. I think.
Exactly.
So because of biological research for human tolerance and human impact is also part of the research.
But of course, the most important is the upper limit. They should not exceed that.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think anybody has ever exceeded that limit, right? Yeah. Considering how regularly, how often they check their weight and their health status up there in the Tiangong space station.
And you can see the beautiful view of our Jiutian Satellite Launch Center. The forest in brown color at this very beautiful season.
And now as we await the launch of Shenzhou-17, let's once again check in with CCTV reporter Sun Ye, who joins us from the launch site. Sun Ye, we're minutes away from that 15-minute countdown, a crucial countdown to liftoff. What's the latest on the ground?
Well, the commander here hasn't called out that 50 minutes countdown yet, but this is the moment, the minus 15 minutes. Oh, he's calling it now. This is the command that he will be calling out the last cars, the last people near or under the launch tower to evacuate, and the last file of cars could be in our view to leave the launch tower. And as it gets near the launch hour, we've been talking to rocket designers, and they say even though they've seen it so many times, this hour it's still intense. And for us, we've been hearing 准备好了, we are ready, everything is normal, 正常 throughout the morning, and we've learned that all the system from rocket, spaceship, they are safe and reliable. This is still a moment quite intense for people who are working here, and we imagine it could be more so for the taikonauts. And we have one small trick from none other than Yang Liwei, the first taikonaut in space. He said to deal with that kind of anxiety, there was a small trick. He said you could try putting your tongue in your cheek like this, but probably don't show it. That would take the your focus off everything else and take the anxiety level down. But perhaps the taikonauts today, the Shenzhou-17 crew, they don't need that. Yesterday we heard Tang Hongbo, the commander, said he's very calm because he only has his mind on one thing, on getting the mission accomplished, and that's what we're here. We are here to witness now, to see them, to see the liftoff, and to see the mission gets accomplished. Zhongshi.
Well, just so you know, I did try out that trick just now when we were showing the pictures, and I was not on the screen. And I don't know, maybe it'll help. I mean, it's a trick from China's first taikonaut. I gotta try it. Thank you so much, Sun Ye, for that update. We appreciate it. And we continue our studio discussions here and conversations until the liftoff happens in just about a little over 15 minutes time. That liftoff scheduled at 11:14 a.m. Beijing time. Professor, can we talk about that window for liftoff? Because we've had a lot of manned and unmanned launches, and each liftoff time is very different. Some in the middle of the night, and today in morning, not exactly early morning. How is that window decided? I mean, what are the parameters and elements that need to be taken into consideration? Weather, for example, is one of them?
Weather is very important consideration, especially the speed of the wind will be considered either in the low altitude and in the high altitude. Moreover, you see that you already mentioned about the launch window in different time is quite different. Some in the night, some in the morning. This is because you know that the change of the orbital plane of the Tiangong space station is relatively slow comparing with the Earth, but still it's changing. So every time it's in a different position. And we've already mentioned that the basic requirement is that after the launch of the Shenzhou spaceship, it must be in the same orbital plane of the Tiangong space station. So in different seasons. Okay, T-minus 15 minutes and counting.
Yeah, this is really to synchronize the universe in which the space shuttle is placed in order to synchronize everything that is precisely to be made sure get connected.
I mean, just at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, we have the collaboration of 3 systems: the astronaut, the spacecraft, and the other one being the launch vehicle systems. They have to cooperate and collaborate closely, and then we have the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. We have the ground stations, the monitoring stations, the monitoring ships. You have to coordinate between all of these systems to make sure that everyone is on board, everyone is on the same page for the liftoff. And that is how all of these real-time coordination happens, why this real-time coordination happens.
And you can see from this video, the previous video is come from unmanned air vehicle and UAV near the launch complex. So today, the UAV is widely used to monitor the whole situation. So it's very convenient for usage.
But don't they pose risks to the launch? I mean, they they're of course very low altitude.
Yeah.
But then they're around.
And also, it's far from the trajectory of the launch vehicle.
Okay.
So you can see that the ground team is retrieving from the launch complex.
So the last groups of ground staff, what remains of the ground staff right now?
The ground staff is just in previously work on the launch complex. So that's the person in charge will count if the number is correct. So if the number is not correct, then must be someone remained on the launch complex. So even in the most serious situation, they will stop the launch process.
Let's check out some of the comments left by our social media users. They've been watching our special coverage here on CGTN, and they, I believe, have some questions. And let's check out some of these questions. We have a lot of comments flooding in. I don't know if we have time to review all of them, but let's take a look at some of them. For example, what happens to the human body if someone spends 2 years in near zero gravity, like on the moon or Mars? Professor Yang?
Okay, this is a good question.
Nobody has ever attempted that. I mean, even with space stations, you rotate every few months.
That's the record today for a single flight in microgravity field is achieved by Mr. Polyakov, just passed away in recent years. But his record is 437 days in orbit. So this is the highest record made in the Mir space station. So also there are several crew have already conducted the residence in International Space Station for more than 1 year. Actually speaking, the human being has already conducted these kind of studies. Absolutely, the influence of microgravity and also together with the radiation have a remarkable influence to the people's health. Especially, that
in what ways?
In many ways, that's the weakening of our neural system and our muscles, the loss of the bones, the loss of the calcium, and also the psychological problems. All these are very serious problems. So we must have the certain countermeasure to dealing with these kind of negative influences.
And let's also take a look at this other one. How do the people breathe in the craft, in the spacecraft, and in the space station? How do they breathe? There's oxygen in the spacecraft and on the space station.
Usually, that in our space station we use
我是0号，下面通报点火时间。点火时间为11时13分59秒。点火时间为11时
The commander they were announcing the final ignition time.
Set at 11:13:59 seconds. That's the precise time when the ignition will happen.
This is very interesting. That China adopted a quite different system from other countries. what we mentioned is the ignition time. And the other countries, for instance, US, use the liftoff time. So this is different. There is a several second interval between these. So you may always notice that Mr. Zhong Shi already hosted so many launch live coverage. You may heard the voice just after the liftoff, and one of the ground staff will report the actual liftoff time. Because you know that as the commander, the chief commander has already mentioned, they announced the ignition time, and there will be several seconds interval for the liftoff time. So another person will announce this liftoff time just after the launch. And for the question, you know that China adopted a mixed atmosphere on board our Tiangong space station, which means 20% of oxygen and 80% of nitrogen is quite similar, but very close to our ground. So the astronaut will be very convenient inside the station. But you know that in the EVA, it will be quite different. You know that the higher pressure is, the more rigid the spacesuit is. So if the difference between the inside and outside the EVA spacesuit is 1 atmosphere, it will be very, very rigid, and it will be impossible for the astronauts to move and change the shape of their bodies. So there is no exception that all space-capable nations choose the pure oxygen atmosphere inside their EVA spacesuit. So before that, we must have some adaptation procedure for the astronauts from their common daily life in our station to the EVA, because they will change from the mixed atmosphere to the pure oxygen atmosphere. And in the pure oxygen atmosphere, the inner pressure in the EVA spacesuit is only 30 to 40% of the common atmosphere. So for this change, we have a very critical procedure to remove all the nitrogen inside our body, because it will boiling if we change that very fast. That will be very, very dangerous.
And I guess we have time for a couple more. A viewer named Azul Celeste asks about the measures to deal with debris and pollution in the space. We covered this in our earlier discussions. I mean, there has been minor damage, very minor damage to the solar wings of the Tiangong space station. And part of the tasks for Shenzhou-17 is that they will inspect some of that damage, not exactly to the point where they have to repair or fix that, but they will definitely take a look. Yeah. But what happens if that damage is a little bit more extensive, let's say, in a hypothesis situation?
You know that in the orbit for the space debris, there are hundreds of millions debris with a size less than 1 centimeter. So for this kind of debris, it's very difficult to track for tracking because it's too small. So we use the shield to protect the space station. But for bigger ones, for instance, for those larger than larger than 10 centimeter, usually if it collides with the station, that will be cause very serious damage. So for these bigger space debris, usually we will conduct an orbital maneuver to avoid the possible collision with this space debris. But if something wrong already happened, that will be depend. For instance, if one of our module is hit by the space debris and some leakage happened, these kind of things already happened in the Mir space station before. So even we will shut down the whole module and isolate it from the other modules. So these things do happen in the Mir space station before. And this is the most serious problem. And even in this case, we may require the astronaut to have an emergency escape from the station to go back to the Earth.
I mean, let's give time for one last question. Chris Lemba wants to know why they're called the taikonauts. Why Chinese astronauts are called taikonauts? I mean, don't Russian astronauts get their name also?
Of course, this comes from the culture. You see that usually in America they call them astronauts, but in Russia and the former Soviet Union they were called cosmonauts. So of course, in China, we have our own traditional, in Chinese name is taikonauts. Because the universe in different countries have different pronunciations. In the United States is the astro, and in Russia is cosmos. Well, in China is taikong.
I believe that is the outer space, literally. So I think this is really also a contribution to the English dictionary or foreign language dictionary at large. With the taikonauts.
Yes.
I think they have taikonaut as a word in dictionary.
Yes, already.
Let's hear from the commander.
Okay, T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
T-minus 5 minutes. We're 5 minutes away from the ignition. Professor Liu, I do want to bring you here and talk a little bit about international cooperation, because China has invited astronauts from all over the world to cooperate and participate in its future space station missions, of course, through a selection process. I mean, what does that say about China's commitment for its manned space program to be open, to be cooperative, and to be inviting, where all of its fruits, if you will, all of its achievements will be shared with the international community? Professor Liu.
Well, first, China does really agree with the first treaty of the United Nations that we are not really claiming territorial space in the outer universe. And that has really received popularity on the value-based one. And of course, technically, because Chinese space is getting more reliable, and we can also see through generations of improvements. And we are really talking about the 3-bedroom and 2 sitting rooms of apartment in the outer space, so that can really accommodate the scientific research in a more comfortable fashion. And the other is that China provides the more of the open attitude to have more inclusivity and to support the bi-policy, particularly the developing countries also to participate. And we are also ready to share the data for scientific use, etc. So this is really the attractiveness of the Chinese for more of the scientific engagement, not only in the space, but also on the ground.
Well, if you're watching us through our social media platforms, keep those questions and comments coming. When we have time, we will put your question to my studio guests here. We're 2 minutes away from ignition. Very quickly, Professor Yang, John Titter asked a simple question. Can we see Earth from a geostationary orbit in the visible spectrum?
Seriously speaking, yes. But you know that there is no any geostationary orbit manned missions before and today, because it's not necessary. You see that to send a human onto the geostationary orbit, the energy required is also almost equal to that to a human lunar mission. So that will use a very huge launch vehicle, but it's really not necessary. Why to do that? There is no reason to do this.
I mean, it's an imaginary question. That's part of why we have space programs. They really broaden people's horizons and open their eyes to a bigger world. We are just over.
Oh, there are so many audience for the launch.
Absolutely. To the ignition time, everyone is watching with breath that is bated, including all three of us here in the studio.
You may notice that the service arms are still attached to the launch vehicle. So after we change the power supply from the ground to the internal batteries, we will detach the rotational arms. And also we mount some cameras on these arms. We can also monitor the whole procedure to ensure safety. Actually speaking, this belongs to the launch side system. And before this launch, all these things must be operated to check whether if everything, for instance, the motors for the rotating is okay.
T-minus 1 minute. Do you think the Shenzhou well, you mentioned the Shenzhou-17 crew could be watching all
yes,
of this
through
in
the
the space
video
station?
uploaded to the from the via the.
But they're not able to talk to them,
Tianlian.
right? They're not be able to give them a just a pep talk to encourage them or anything like that.
That means what they will send to them.
Okay.
No, already launched all the detachment of the arms.
Okay, the arms are detached.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see
30 seconds.
in the station. They are watching.
Well, we just saw some, some banners. Welcome. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Professor Liu is getting nervous. I can feel that. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
After the first step, change the flight direction from a vertical
Over the past 2 decades, since China sent its first taikonaut,
青山 USB 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。
11 manned missions. This is the 12th mission, carrying the youngest ever Shenzhou crew since the construction of China's International Space Station.
So this vehicle comes from the camera, what I mentioned, mounted on the second stage of the rocket and looking backwards, so we can see the 2 boosters.
And these cameras are so important. They bring us a real-time scenario, real-time monitoring of what is going on with the rocket to see its trajectory and to really visualize how that flight is going. I think it's super important.
So I believe at this moment you can see the direction has already changed. So the pitch over has already been successfully conducted, and the next critical step will be the jettisoning of the emergency escape tower.
And how much further into the flight will that happen? The jettisoning of the escape tower?
Escape tower. About 100 seconds also.
100 seconds. That's about 1 minute 40 seconds into the flight. We could see the separation, the jettisoning of the emergency escape tower.
This, I believe at this moment it's already supersonic and already past what we call the max Q, which means the maximum aerodynamic forces to the launch vehicle.
I mean, this is something the taikonauts would have experienced in their training also.
Okay, jettisoned.
Okay, the escape tower has now been jettisoned.
And the next critical step will be the separation of the 4 boosters. About 2 minutes.
About 2 minutes into the flight, we will see the boosters come off.
We also heard voice that all the ground station is tracking very normally, either the optical telescopes and the radars.
I love hearing them. I love hearing them report that everything is going on smoothly, normally. They have a very calming, very soothing voice.
Great.
The boosters have come off.
4 boosters. Oh, and also the first stage separated.
The first stage has been separated.
Yeah. We have a camera on the rear part of the second stage to monitor the working of the main engine of the second stage. We have 1 main engine with a thrust about 80 tons, and also 4 vernier engines to change the attitude of the launch vehicle. So we can see the optical images based on the ground telescope. This is what I mentioned, the video from the camera mounted on the rear part of the second stage. We can see the big thrust is the main engine, and this is the engine mounted inside the payload fairing. So the next step will be the separation of the payload fairings.
The separation of the payload fairing will be
great.
Yes, that's
separated.
Separation.
Okay.
Now it's in the sunlight. The astronauts inside the cabin can see the sunlight through the 2 windows.
I mean, some of their predecessors used to, play with pens once they reach 0 gravity.
And
so
the next step, after several minutes, will be the shutdown of the main engine. But still, the 4 vernier engine will be still continue working to adjust it to make sure that it's precise enough.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that the taikonauts are doing fine. They seem to be doing okay in their seats.
That's the Shenzhou-17 flying eastwards. Along its trajectory, we have the Weinan, exactly.
Yeah.
Weinan ground station in Shanxi province, and also we have the Taiyuan Satellite Launch Center. We also have a ground station.
And so this stage will probably take a little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly. And also you can see the background is the horizon of the Earth, very bright. They're already outside the atmosphere.
I mean, all of these cameras, they withstand such high temperature. They work magic.
Well, that still there is a interval between the camera and the rocket engine, so it's not in a very high temperature, still very safe.
Okay.
And you can see the small vernier engines just on the left. So that vernier engine is used to change the attitude of the this second
Got
stage.
it. Look at the Shenzhou-17 crew watching from the space station.
With the continuous working of the rocket engines, because the propellants are become less and less, and the acceleration will be greater and greater, so they will feel the G-forces acting to their body are increasing at this moment.
So this is what they're going through at this point in the flight.
Okay, Qingdao station has already captured the flying object. Qingdao is the last ground station to track the combination.
Okay, so this is the part where the taikonauts could feel a little bit more discomfort in their seats.
But it's already better than in the atmosphere. You see that in the atmosphere, because the international, you can see the 3D animation. We can see the links between the ground stations and the launch vehicle. There are multiple ground stations have tracking the launch vehicle, and all of them are receiving the telemetry date, which presents the current status of the launch vehicle. So we can have a 3D animation, although it is an animation, but it represents the real status of the flying objects.
You were saying, Professor, that at this point the taikonauts are feeling a little bit better than
experience the G-forces and also the vibration. You can see that the main engine is still working, but the next step will be the shutdown of the main engine. Now 7 minutes have passed. Usually the shutdown will happen about 8 to 9 minutes.
Yeah, on the right bottom corner, the Shenzhou-16 crew
is watching, as I mentioned.
The Shenzhou-17 crew, I mean, they must be very happy to welcome the Shenzhou-17 crew, because this will mean that their mission, their 6-month-long mission, will soon come to an end. They return to Earth on October 30th, and there will be that happy meeting, happy handover.
They will welcome their new colleagues after 6 or 7 hours.
With open arms, I'm sure. So in 6.5 hours or so, the spacecraft will conduct an automatic run to
the main engine is shut down.
The main engine has now shut down.
This means that the Shenzhou spaceship is already in orbit, but we will adjust its trajectory with the 4 vernier engines to make it more precise.
It is the minute that leave the ground that the astronauts will feel more uncomfortable. Right now it's getting more stabilized.
Exactly, because the main engine has shut down, there is no greater G-forces acting on their body.
It's not, when we sit in the vehicles or the airplane, it's really acceleration.
Yeah.
That is having a big stress on us.
So
they take off and landing part.
Right.
So the next critical step will be the shutdown of the 4 vernier engines. And at this moment, as Professor Liu has mentioned, they will experience the 0G.
Right.
And with this camera mounted on the second stage, looking forward, it will monitor the separation of the Shenzhou spaceship.
It will monitor the separation of the Shenzhou space spacecraft from the carrier rocket.
So just on the previous video, we can see still we have the communication link between the Qingdao station and the launch vehicle.
And Qingdao being the last ground station.
Yeah. So the separating point is just above the Pacific Ocean, very close to the eastern coast of China. Actually speaking, near the Shandong province and Jiangsu province.
长江6号发现目标。
Changjiang 6号 is the what we call the Yuanwang 6 space tracking ship of China. So it is now in the Pacific Ocean to be the last one to support the launch.
How many of these tracking ships do we have for this mission? Do we know that?
It depends.
游击关机，团建分离。
Okay, this is a key moment. The spacecraft has separated from the carrier rocket. Professor Yang, does that mean that Shenzhou-17 is now in its predetermined orbit?
We will have some checking whether the orbital parameters is accurate enough. Only in these circumstances we can announce it is a successful launch. Moreover, there is also another two important steps. One is to that's the unfolding of the solar panels, and also the deployment of the hanging antenna to the data relay satellite.
天路发现目标，宽坡数。
So there you can see on the left is the Shenzhou-17 crew, right the Shenzhou-16 crew.
Yeah, they are watching the coverage.
Obviously, they're watching the coverage. They're watching what the Shenzhou-17 crew are faring, how they're doing, and they will meet each other in about 6.5 hours aboard the Tiangong space station.
So our Shenzhou-17 crew has already, all these three crew members have already entered the club of astronauts.
Absolutely, and they're flipping, look, the pens are floating again.
Yeah.
They're flipping through that handbook
They are just
again.
enjoying the zero-G.
They're now able to enjoy after the more dangerous, the more risky part of
look,
the flight.
This is a video comes from the camera mounted on the propulsion module of our Shenzhou spaceship. So it can monitor the unfolding process of the solar panels.
Look at our beautiful blue planet.
Just above the Pacific Ocean.
Just above the Pacific Ocean.
The propulsion module will conduct several orbit maneuvers to chase its target, the Tiangong space station, and to accomplish the rendezvous and docking. It will work all automatically.
Professor Yang, they don't have to do anything, right, at this point, but they're flipping through the handbook. What does that tell us?
No, they are actually speaking, the three astronauts have very important role to monitor everything. So
how do they monitor from
check?
Inside
there were instruments and there are echoes of every parameter. Great.
Okay, those are their solar panels, right?
Yeah, unfolded.
Okay, the solar panels on the spacecraft have just unfolded, which indicates, well, primitive success of the launch.
Yes.
That's
we on the propulsion module we have two solar wings and each have 4 panels.
We're hearing that the solar panels have deployed.
The previous voice comes from the astronauts because, as I mentioned, there are instruments to provide them all the critical parameters.
So they're able to see that the solar panels have deployed normally.
Not to see with their eyes, but to see in the instruments, the data.
The data. So they were reporting back to their ground colleagues that based on the data they see in the instruments, the solar panels are working.
The SADA, or the solar array drive assembly, also work normal.
I think after they get out of the sight of the detection on the ground station, the astronauts will play a more active role in reporting data.
Don't worry. Just 2 minutes before, there is a voice mentioned that Tianlu connected, which means that the data link between our Shenzhou spaceship and Tianlian data relay satellite has already connected. So there will be a continuous connection.
Right, and civilians also. Yeah.
Gentlemen, we are being watched by a lot of social media users. This exciting blast-off is being live-streamed on CGTN's YouTube channel. Many users are expressing their excitement in the comment section. Let me read a few. John Totori says, wish everyone luck in space adventure, not just China. Any success for humanity is good. John, I agree with you. I think my guests agree with you also. And Han Tua says, we come in peace to the creatures and life in outer space, charity for all, and malice towards none. Well, if there is aliens and outer space life forms, they'd be very happy to hear that. I guess so. And Cam35MM says, humans are still in the primitive aspect of space travel. Chemical energy is used to get us out from Earth's gravity. Then it's about momentum and vector to meet our And we're hearing from the Beijing Aerospace Control Center?
Yeah. And also some communication with the astronauts. Now you can see that they will open their face masks because it's already in orbit and very, very safe, not necessary to be closed by the face mask.
I mean, Professor Liu here, just the comments that I read to our viewers now, some of them mentioning that the purpose about space development is not about one country, it's not about just individual countries, it's for the greater good of the humanity. I do want to get your take and your thoughts, Professor Liu, on how China can make good on its promises to benefit the international community with whatever it finds with its manned space programs.
Well, technological advancement is really the precondition for us to reach there, however promise we can really deliver. And the other is really the economic prowess. Because without really economic support, you don't get the right type of supply and you don't really motivate people, particularly on the commercial use of all that stuff. And third is what can be the deliverables from the outer space exploration, and do they really bring back substantial stuff for scientific research and also for possibly the commercial use of it. So this is something that China has really delivered so far, and that really brings the excitement.
That it's in orbit.
The commander in Beijing Flight Control Center just announced the orbital parameters of our Shenzhou spaceship. It's in a very good condition, and this is a good start for the rendezvous and docking procedure to our Tiangong space station.
Okay.
And it will connect to the front docking port of Tiangong space station.
Got it.
Because at this moment, the bottom docking port is attached to the Shenzhou-17 spaceship.
When we talk about international collaboration, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Professor Liu. What does that look like? The participation of foreign astronauts, that's what we can think of. But could international collaboration also include other aspects?
Well, in the initial phase, actually, simply the satisfaction of the people's curiosity and guesswork is something that's very useful by exploring the unknown.
Professors, let's hear from
officials, experts, and comrades. Based on the flight data and report from Beijing Command and Control Center, the Long March 2 FY-17 carrier rocket has sent Shenzhou-17 manned spacecraft to the preset orbit. The solar panels have been unfolded successfully and are functioning well. I declare the launch of Shenzhou-17 mission a complete success. Thank you.
A complete success. A round of applause from everyone here who has worked tirelessly.
That's quite a relief.
What a sigh of relief for everyone.
Right, for everyone that is involved.